Hi, this is Sarah.
And this is Rachel.
And this is the Rippah Diaries, a podcast where we rip apart, episode by episode, the Vampire Diaries. But today is a special topic episode.
Today, we're bringing to you our season 1 roundup / recap / a little bit of like an award show. We pick some of our favorite moments and things like that. So yeah, we just want to bring season 1 to a close and bridge the gap into season 2.
Yeah, it's fall. It's the start of the Vampire Diaries season.
Yes.
So it's the perfect time. We just finished, we recently finished the season 1 recap. So it makes sense to do sort of an overview of the entire thing from, a wider perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Especially to sort of refresh our memories. We've been away for a little while.
Yeah.
Lots of life things going on.
Oh,
Moving.
Yeah, we moved.
All sorts of things.
Weddings, funerals. We got
COVID. Everything that could happen has happened in the past month.
Yeah.
But
so
we're back.
We're settled. We're ready to get into Vampire Diaries. It's the perfect time for it.
I'm dying to get into Vampire Diaries.
I'm dying to get into season 2 because we said it before. I'll say it again. Love season 2.
Yeah, truly a top tier season.
Yeah. So for now, we have to just wrap up, put the little bow on season 1.
Yes.
Before we get on to just obsessing over season 2.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I love season 1 as well. I think it's a great season.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely in like the top few seasons. Like it's for me stronger than like 5, 6, 7, 8. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I was refreshing my memory before recording the episode, and because it's been a little while since we finished, and I was just remembering how much I love everything that happens.
It's such a good
It's a really
season.
solid season.
Yeah, so to start it off, we're going to go over the probably 7, I think it is, main sort of characters in season 1, people who go through the biggest journeys from episode 1 to episode 22. Mm-hmm. They have the biggest amount of change. And we're going to start off with the it girl, the main girl of the show, Miss Elena Gilbert, obviously, Gloomy Graveyard herself. And so for Elena, she, of course, starts episode 1. She has just recently, a few months ago, lost her parents. She's very much grieving, and she's trying to look to the future, trying to be more positive about the school year. And then, of course, by the end of the season, she ends more grief, more gloomy, more graveyard vibes, because she's been introduced to the world of vampires. Mm-hmm. She's dating a vampire, and she learns she was adopted. She meets her birth parents. A lot happens. But, of course, she does end the season ultimately in love with Stefan and, like, overall happy, better than the first episode.
Better than before. Yeah, I'd say better than before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, thinking of Elena, obviously next thought goes to Stefan. Stefan comes in the pilot as this mysterious hot new guy with like the sexy back, I think Bonnie says.
Hot back.
Hot back. Yeah. And, he's sort of that mysterious guy. And of course, we learn that he's a vampire, and Stefan and Elena pretty much get together off the bat, but they have a lot of ups and downs. Stefan has his own personal ups and downs. He has the whole Rippah arc, that sort of thing. But yeah, they end up in a good spot, like you said. They're pretty much together, and I think also Stefan's relationship with Damon is pretty solid at the end. Oh yeah,
way better.
Way better than it was at the start. So a lot of growth there for Stefan.
Definitely. And then of course, like you said, Stefan and Damon hand in hand. So going into Damon, he of course starts the series as the main antagonist. He is, for all intents and purposes, the big bad vampire that's come to town to just cause chaos. Initially, we think it's sort of just because he's trying to give Stefan his eternity of misery. But then, of course, ultimately, we learn that he's trying to open the tomb because he wants to save Catherine, who he's still in love with. And that, of course, goes sideways. He gets the tomb open. She was never in the tomb. She just ghosted him for 140 years, which really switches him, like, I think, completely by the end of the season. He's totally on, like, the hero side. He is in a lot better place with Stefan, like you said. And, of course, he's grown a very strong relationship with Elena, who,
of course,
in the finale, he makes a pretty big move on. But overall, he's in a better place with Stefan, with Elena, and with Mystic Falls in general. He protects the town in the last episode.
You know who he's not in a good spot with at the end of the season? Bonnie. My girl. Bonnie also, I mean, every character has a lot of growth in this season. We're just figuring out this world and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But Bonnie starts off thinking she's sort of a psychic. She has a lot of like visions of things, but then her powers fully manifest, and she's just a full-blown witch by like episode 4 or 5, along those lines. And she comes into having her powers. She, learns from Grams, who then passes away. So she goes like through that. She gets written off the show, of course, to deal with that. And she comes back, I think, stronger than ever, of course, magically, but also way more confident, way less willing to just be used by like Damon or Stefan even. And yeah, I think she's really come into her own by the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. She's like the big bad witch.
Yeah.
Making threats.
Yeah, she's like the person who can actually stand up to Damon.
Yeah. On the opposite end of that spectrum, Jeremy Gilbert. He, of course...
I almost forgot where he ends up.
Yeah, he ends in an interesting spot. He, of course, starts like same place as Elena. He is, of course, grieving the loss of his parents. He is the bad boy. He's doing drugs. He's just chasing after Vicky Donovan. He is, the sad, lonely puppy, but also is just, the miserable bad boy. And, of course... that just spirals because Vicky dies. He gets compelled. That turns him into basically an entirely new character. Yeah. He's completely unlike himself in the first 7 episodes. But he really turns his life around. He then meets Anna, falls in love with her, and then she dies too. And so then... through her, he had learned about the world of vampires, and he decides in the finale that he wants to become a vampire because he wants to be able to turn off his emotions to not deal with the grief. So, Jeremy, unfortunately, his whole sort of vibe of season 1 is grief hard over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, I think he has the hardest time. We talked about this a little bit during the season. But yeah, I think Jeremy has somehow an even harder time than Elena or Bonnie.
Yeah, I think probably by the end, everyone ends up in a pretty similar place. But especially in this first season, it's definitely Jeremy. Yeah. It's just like 2 girlfriends in 1 season. That's insane.
That's tough. That's really
tough.
And
he's going to lose another one again. So, yeah, it just keeps happening with him. So he's left in limbo of like, is he in transition? Is he not? Yes. At the end of season 1.
Yeah, interesting place. Caroline, in a similar position. We start off the season with Caroline Caroline and Bonnie both, but Caroline especially just being sort of like a teenager. Like, she's very much kind of catty. She's not really confident. Like, she's very insecure, feels like she's second to Elena, all of these things. She has a really terrible relationship with Damon, gets into a relationship with Matt, and she really starts to come into her own, and her like turn for the better, I think, begins in season 1, like we've talked about. Yeah. And she, by the end of the season, especially, she's confidence wise, security, like in herself wise, in a way better place. But of course, her like plot ends up that she's in the hospital. She was in that car crash with Tyler and Matt. So Liz is like, it's not looking good, basically. Yeah. So she's pretty up in the air at this point.
Yeah, they leave us really on a cliffhanger with her of like, kind of seems like she's gonna die at any second.
Yeah, she's not doing great.
Left in the balance with Caroline, but of course she is being taken care of by Maddie Blue Eyes. I'll never forget.
Yes, of course. I know. Oh, baby. I was thinking about that too.
I love that though. He goes through that change. He of course kind of starts the season in a sort of similar place where he is just puppy dog love for Elena. Yes. Maddie Blue Eyes in the first few episodes is just set up to be like, the jealous ex of Elena who just wants things to go back to normal. Elena had just recently broken his heart. And of course, Maddie's heart only gets broken further from there because his sister, Vicky, dies, which is such an insane thing that kind of, I feel like it's brushed over a little bit.
It really does. It really does.
But that's a big thing, obviously, for Matt. But he does ultimately, I think, get to a better place because, of course, he enters a relationship with Caroline, which I think ends up really being good for him, and she's good for him.
Yeah, definitely.
In that way, at least. He shows that he cares about her a lot in the finale, so that's where he ends up, is in the hospital waiting for Caroline to see if she's going to live or die.
He could be in Jeremy's position. He could be not. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. Pretty neck and neck, those two.
Yeah. So... with all of those characters, those are, of course, like the main characters, sort of like
season 1,
Yeah, almost like the heroes' roles.
Yes.
So if we have our heroes, we have to talk about all of our villains, of course.
Of course. Yeah, there's a good chunk of villains in season 1. I feel like all seasons have like maybe a collection of villains, but most of them kind of come down to one big bad. And a lot of people think of season 1 as the Tomb Vampires season, and it is, but there's a lot of other villains. Like I already noted, Damon is of course the first villain of the series. The first 9 episodes are all about Damon being the true antagonist. You know, he is, of course, like I said, the eternity of misery for Stefan and just trying to cause chaos. Yeah. He threatens Elena at every turn. He doesn't actually do anything to her, but he threatens it constantly.
Yep.
And it obviously becomes clear that he's ultimately a villain because he does have the larger goal of opening the tomb. And once the tomb is opened, like I said, he immediately slides into hero. Like, he's not a villain anymore. He's a villain because of a goal. Granted, he's also a villain in those moments because he is willing to just do whatever and hurt whoever because he only cares about that goal.
Yeah.
But Damon is an interesting villain in that way where, like, he's just doing whatever he wants because he only cares about that one thing.
Yeah, which ultimately leads to Vicky becoming a villain. Vicky, well, so she's sort of set up as an antagonist at the beginning because she's like the bad girl stoner who's like a bad influence on Jeremy. And Elena doesn't like her. So she's kind of like the teen drama antagonist from the beginning. But obviously, when she has her episode Haunted, she is pretty much like the antagonist or villain of that episode. And she, you know, she
threatens Elena.
She almost kills Elena and Jeremy in a way. I don't think she actually would have, but maybe. So yeah, she's, you know, she's a villain or antagonist, but because of Damon, unfortunately.
Yeah, Damon makes her into that.
Yeah. And her arc, of course, ends there when she dies.
Yeah, the short-lived antagonist, Vicky. A longer antagonist who is the same as Damon, is just goal-oriented, is Anna. And Anna, of course, comes with a posse of people. She has Logan, Noah, and Ben are all villains that each have, like, one episode, and they're all ultimately working for Anna. Mm-hmm. She turned, maybe not Noah, but she definitely turned Ben and Logan.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's definitely the most, like, goal-oriented of the villains, potentially in the whole series, but definitely in season 1, of just, like, she's only a villain because she's willing to do whatever it takes to open the tomb to get her mother out. And as soon as that tomb is open and her mother's out, she's no longer, again, like Damon, she's no longer a villain. She becomes, like, one of the heroes. She saves everybody, you know, at the Founders Day event. Yeah. So she's an interesting one where, like, she's just doing whatever it takes to do that thing. And in the eyes of our heroes, that does make her a villain. But, like, Anna doesn't really do that much, like, bad per se.
Not really. I mean, the worst thing she really does is, I guess, like, I mean, she does kidnap Bonnie and Elena. Yeah, that's pretty bad. But, like, the whole, I want to get my mom out of the tomb because she's been stuck down there desiccated for 145 years.
It's fair.
Yeah, fair. I get it. Like, I feel like, you know, like you said, it's kind of a villain to the heroes of the show, but
yeah, she could be the hero of her own show easily.
Exactly. Definitely.
So that's Anna and her whole pack of villains, which leads us right into the next pack of villains.
Yeah, of course, once Anna gets Pearl, the whole tomb is open and Damon has left a blood bag in there and they all end up getting out. So all of the tomb vampires get out. They kind of have an interesting arc of, like, phases where first they're kind of led by Pearl, so they're kind of, you know, they're not really like a big antagonist or villain, like, because Pearl does not want revenge. She's very clear she doesn't want revenge. She doesn't want them just really randomly killing people, so they're kind of like that. But then Frederick and Beth Ann start this whole, like, you know, we want revenge on the town, all these people, and it starts because they want to get revenge on Damon and Stefan. Mm-hmm. So that's their, like, first phase of being the villain or antagonist. They attack Stefan and Damon. Stefan has to kill Beth Ann. They kidnap Stefan back. It's like this weird back and forth. Yeah. They do the rescue mission. So that's, like, their first arc. And then, of course, a bunch of the tomb vampires die in that rescue mission. And that's kind of the last we see of them until, like, the finale, when they're going to come back and kill all the founding families.
Yeah, they disappear for a minute.
Yeah.
And like you said, they do spawn the next villain for one episode, which is Stefan. Stefan does get his little mini stint as an antagonist. We'll see it again in season 3.
Of course.
But for season 1, he gets this one episode, Miss Mystic Falls, because he got kidnapped and was exposed to Elena's human blood in order to heal himself. He's really having a hard time with, like, blood rage and, like, wanting to drink people's blood, and he kidnaps Amber and almost kills her in the woods, and he's effectively the villain of that episode.
Yeah.
He, of course, bounces back immediately. They, you know, take him and drain him and get him back to normal, and he's good in one episode, but he is a villain for one episode.
Yeah, a villain for every episode he's in. John Gilbert. John comes on the scene pretty late in the season, But we immediately know he's going to be an antagonist / villain because everyone hates him, including Maddie Blue Eyes.
Yeah.
Like, he comes back into town and Jenna's like, ugh. Like, Elena's like, oh, God. Like, if Elena tells Matt, and Matt's like, I hate that guy. Like, everyone agrees we hate John Gilbert. And then we finally get to, like, really meet him and get to know him. And obviously, he's a huge antagonist to Damon because he joins the council and threatens to expose Damon and Stefan at pretty much every turn. And then we also find out, you know, he's going to work to find the invention, which will kill all the vampires. And then obviously the whole finale showdown goes down where he does actually kill most of the tomb vampires and almost Damon.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, you know, John was failing a little bit at his goals. Yes. He couldn't get the invention. So enter another villain for like 1 or 2 episodes, Isabel. You know, she pops in really quick for that one episode, basically threatens and or injures every single person that comes within her path. She beats up John, she kidnaps Jeremy, breaks Matt's arm. Oh yeah. She has a very short stint as a villain, but it's so memorable because she really does tear up the place. Yeah. And again, it's a goal-oriented one where like she just shows up, she gets the invention, she gives it to John, and she leaves town. Yeah. She's a very quick in and out villain. Yeah. We also, in the finale, set up like the big bad of next season. Catherine, of course, comes back in that last little moment where she kisses Damon and Damon thinks it's Elena. And then Catherine goes inside as Elena and cuts off all of John's fingers in like a brutal moment for the finale. And yeah, they're kind of like just teeing up Catherine at this point. We see a little bit of the flashbacks and you can kind of see how her having a relationship with both brothers could kind of be construed as an antagonist, but we don't really get the full extent of that and how she was a villain in 1864 until I think next season. Yeah, it's really like the last 5 minutes of the finale that you're like, oh, whoa, she's not what I was expecting. Because we don't know why she was missing for those 140 years, you know? Yes. It's like, okay, she wasn't in the tomb. She might have a perfectly reasonable explanation for that. Like, we don't know. We don't know anything about Catherine. So yeah, we're left off with the clue that she's going to be the next really big villain. With all that being said, and ending on Catherine, I have to say, even though Catherine is probably like my favorite villain of season 2, she does not get my favorite villain of season 1 award because, well, she's really only in season 2 in the present day for like 2 minutes. Yeah. I have to say, I think I'm going to go with Isabel as my favorite villain. I knew you would pick Isabel. You know I love Isabel. I really love Isabel just because I feel like she brings she is such a nuanced character. Like, even we were like, we have to have a special episode talking about Isabel's humanity. Like, her motives are so interesting to me. Like, whether or not her humanity is on and to what degree is so interesting to me. I feel like she brings a lot with so little time, really, too. Because, like you said, that's true. 1 episode. She's in it for like 2, maybe 1 episode. Yeah. And she's just chaos the entire time. She also goes the furthest, I'd say, besides Damon like killing people, which that's true. Yeah. I'm not gonna go with Damon because I don't really like his I'm gonna abuse Caroline villain arc. I prefer the more like I'll do anything for Elena. Yes. So it's not Damon. Catherine's not in it enough. I gotta go with Isabel. I knew you were gonna go with Isabel. She's got so much. She brings so much. Yeah, she's such an interesting villain. I will say I hate her. Well, I hate her, but like, the character to me is a good villain. She is a good villain, but like for me, it does border on like I don't even enjoy her in a way because I just dislike her so strongly. I think it's because I like Elena too much. Okay, that's fair. Like makes me angry on Elena's behalf. You know, it's like in order to enjoy a villain, you almost have to be okay with the amount of pain that they're inflicting, which I guess is like a Catherine thing in like season 2 where like she inflicts a lot of pain on Elena that I'm okay with. Yeah. But like Isabel being her mother and doing that to her is that like is pretty terrible. Crossing a line for me. Yeah, I will say, the way she treats like her maternal relationship with Elena is probably the least favorite of like everything she brings, which is a huge part of her character. But she's an interesting villain though. Again, with the goal oriented, and she pops in, achieves that goal in 1 episode. It's out. Done. Yeah, it's like she said to John, "You're failing. I'm gonna get this done now," and then it's over. Yeah, one night. Yeah, it takes like 24 hours. She's great. Yeah, so I did the same thing where I was like, you'd think it would be this person, but it was this person. But I actually kind of went the opposite way of you. So initially, I really wanted to do Damon because I really like Damon's villain arc in that I like that, not the Carolyn abusing thing, but that's I like how chaotic he is. I think it's interesting how, like, he's just this, like, emotional, like, I don't know, he's like, you don't know what to expect out of him. But I did end up going with Catherine as my favorite villain in season 1, which, same thing as you said, I kind of didn't want to do her because, again, she's only a villain for the last few episodes. But I was looking at the list of all the villains, Isabel, John, the Tomb Vampires, Damon, even Stefan. And I was like, you know what all of these have in common? Catherine. Catherine's the root of all of their problems.
Very true.
Catherine is the root of all evil.
Yeah, like, she really is.
She really is. And so I was like, you know what? I know season 2 is Catherine's season, although it probably will even then go into originals. So I was like, you know what? Season 1 is all because of Catherine. So I do think ultimately for me, I'm going to name Catherine my season 1 favorite villain because even though she's only in it for a little bit, everything that happens is because of her. Yeah. So
it's so true. No, it's funny you say that because I was actually thinking about this the other day. Like, of course, I'm just casually thinking about Vampire Diaries. But we always say, you know, like, this was all going to happen to Elena with or without Stefan and Damon in her life. Like, she was the doppelganger.
Yeah.
If Catherine had just done the sun and moon curse in the beginning, this would have never happened.
Elena and Maddie Blue Eyes would have had their little babies and, like, lived happily ever after. Like,
exactly. Yeah. So I agree. Catherine is a good one, but I'm saving her for season 2.
Yeah, she's so good in season 2 that I think that we'll talk about her a lot more. Of course. Which is what I'm excited for, too. Yeah. But, I mean, also, how can you get past that iconic, the cutting off, hello, John, goodbye, John.
That's true. If we're saying, you know, Isabel packs a big punch in the little time she's there. Catherine, tenfold. Like, she
gets like there. 5 minutes and she makes an impact.
She makes it count. Yeah. So true.
I had to say Catherine, favorite villain.
Yeah.
Which is a good segue into our next topic is the top 3 performances of any actor throughout this first season. And first, I had to say Nina Dobrev in the season 1 finale, Founders Day. Yeah. Because of course she's Elena, but then she's Catherine at the end, and also she was Catherine pretending to be Elena for a lot of that. And it's just such an unbelievable performance. The first time you watch it, you don't even realize what's going on. The second time you watch it, you're like, it's so obvious it was Catherine. Yeah. It's just like Nina is the person, I think, from this show that gets the most, like, acting praise. And people are just always talking about how phenomenal she is because she is. But it's this episode, I think, that, like, highlighted it the best for me.
Yeah, I, of course, was going to say the same thing. I figured we would have at least this one, like, favorite performance in mind because... Yeah, Nina just plays it so well, and it only gets better on a rewatch.
Oh, yeah.
The first time I watched it, I was shocked. But then on a rewatch, I still feel like there are those subtle little nuances in how she plays it that I'm like, oh, it never gets old.
Yeah, it reads as Elena, but then it's like, but it's so obviously
It's so clearly Catherine, but I could see where Damon would think it's Elena. Yeah.
And to play 2 different people, of course, is a challenge. Playing Elena and Catherine in and of itself is impressive. Like, if we were to say episode 6, she plays both Elena and then Catherine in flashbacks. But it's this episode where she's playing Catherine trying to play Elena. Yep. Where it's like, girl, we are getting so... Just wait until we get to the body swap of it all. Like, she's an expert at it.
Yeah.
My next nominee for top 3 performances is Paul Wesley.
Of course. I think we're going to have all the same 3.
I don't think the next one will be the same, but
Probably
this one,
not.
I went Miss Mystic Falls.
Of course, same.
Yeah, episode 19 is, of course, the episode where Stefan falls off the wagon. He's on the human blood stuff, and he is just, like, going crazy. He's so not himself. And it's just really excellent. We talked about it a lot in that episode.
Of course,
that, you know, he just really nails the whole, like, drug addict, you know, stressed, angry, scary.
Yeah,
he's
out of
really
control.
Out of control.
But trying to seem like he has it together. Yeah.
Which is so impactful after, like, 18 episodes of him being Stefan, who's, like, the most, like, boring balance.
Yeah, so like, one note. Yeah.
You know, Stefan's just the good guy. Like, that's just his vibe.
Yeah.
And then you get hit with episode 19 and you're like, Stefan?
Yeah. Yeah, like, no. I'm so glad they ended up doing this with Stefan's character because Paul... Really, like, I love Ripper Stefan because of Paul. He plays it so well.
And again, like, the writers, I think it's brilliant because Ripper Stefan is like the layers that Stefan as a character needed. He's, again,
Definitely.
one note. He would have been kind of boring as a character without adding in the Ripper element.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm sure after they did 19 and realized like how good he was at it, they were like, we gotta write more of this.
We gotta do this again. Yeah.
Similar note to that, actually. I'm curious if I don't think we have the next same person.
Probably not. I will say I wanted to do someone who was not the trio. Because I did think about Ian. Because I obviously just like...
you want to do the trio.
The whole season, of course. They're the trio for a reason. But I didn't. So you can go ahead.
Well, so mine goes really well off of that same thing of like a person who came in, did something great in one episode, and they had to write more of that. And that is, of course, Ariel Cabell as Lexi. Lexi is one episode in episode 8, 162 Candles. And, you know, she comes in, she's Stefan's best friend, and at the end of the episode, Damon kills her. She's a one-character episode. Yep. But, of course, she kills it as Lexi. She's such an interesting, fun character that I think they really felt the need out of anyone. They could have picked any of those tomb vampires. They could have picked really anybody to make, like, a regular flashback character. They could have written a new character to be Stefan's friend in flashbacks. But I think it really speaks to, like, her performance as Lexi that they really wanted to keep bringing her back. She ends up being in like 9 or 10 episodes throughout the entire series. Yeah. Just through flashbacks because she dies in the first season.
Yeah.
So like I think it really is a testament to, you know, that she's like really great at that role, and it's such an interesting character to add into the Vampire Diaries world that I made her my number 3 favorite.
Yeah, that's a solid one. I actually didn't even think about Lexi, but that's like I really do love the Lexi character, and she does come in, and obviously they had to build out more for her.
Yeah Again, killed it in one episode, and they were like, we need more
we need to bring her back. I almost had like the opposite, where I went the opposite direction, in that I saw someone who like was doing a lot like throughout the season that I thought was really solid. I think this will surprise a lot of people. Meaning me, Sarah and Shay, who's helping us, and you guys, of course, because you know I love everyone but Matt Donovan. But I have to give Zach Rohrig a little bit of like an accolade, like a little bit, because I really think, like, especially on this rewatch, I sympathize with his story so much more than I ever have before, and I think he does a lot to show like his relationship with his mom, Kelly, and I especially noticed it in the episode where they find Vicky's body and they find out she died. Matt plays that, I think, or Zach plays that really well. And I thought that was a really solid performance from especially a non-trio character. I don't know. I thought he did a lot with what he was given, which admittedly was not that much.
Yeah, I think that's a great call out. And I do think that a lot of us overlook Matt because of where he goes in later seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, he just becomes such an annoying character at a certain point to where we don't take him or Zach seriously. Yeah. But that is not his fault at all. I do think he does well with like what he's given as the character of Matt. And I think you're right. In the first season especially, we see so many layers of like who he is as a character. He is still a brother at this point, a protective brother. Then he's a mourning brother. Yeah. Then he's like this bad boyfriend turned good boyfriend. Yeah. And like, he goes through so much, and he does a really good job at handling that.
I think so too. Yeah. I think this is the season to call it out because, I think they take his story in like I don't like that direction. But everything they did in season 1 with Matt's character, I think Zach made the absolute most of. Like, I thought him playing the petty boyfriend was really well done. Like, you know, kind of jealous of Stefan. That was really well done. And then his relationship with Stefan in like the double date episode. I don't know. I thought the little that he got, he really showed up for. Yeah. And this is the only season I'll say it. So I was like, I might as well give it to him.
Matt's getting no accolades after this season.
It. So savor this while you can if you love Matt / Zach, because this is it.
This is the best.
No fault to Zach, of course. But Matt. No, it's not after this. I'm never giving him any more accolades.
We've peaked on Matt for sure.
Definitely.
Hopefully not peaked on some other stuff, because the next thing we're going to talk about is favorite 3-episode run arc. Yeah. So instead of like it was too hard to choose like a character arc or like a story arc. Yeah. They blend together too much. So instead we're going to choose our favorite back-to-back episodes. If you were going to pick like 3 episodes to just you watch, rewatch, whatever. What are your favorites? I went back and forth for a long time on this one.
I know. I had 2 in mind that I thought about doing like a tie, but I knew that was a cop-out. Yeah, so,
I know. I did end up one out for me, and I'll just say mine, I guess, is that nostalgia won out for me. I really wanted to go with some of the later episodes into the teens, because how could you not, with like Miss Mystics and great episodes. But ultimately, my all-time favorite episode, I've said this before, is Friday Night Bites.
Of course.
And so I ended up going really early. I went episode 2, 3, 4.
Oh, interesting. I did contemplate 2, 3, 4. It didn't make either of my like two ties, but.
And so the reason that swayed me, I will say there's a lot of back-to-back episodes that I love. Like Bloodlines, the Georgia episode, and then Pleasantville, the Decade Dance. Like there's a lot of back-to-back, but then there's usually like one episode right after where I was like, I don't like that episode.
I don't love, yeah.
But for me, I think I really like the nostalgia of The Night of the Comet is episode 2, where the comet goes off, the Lane and Stefan are starting to get together. Friday Night Bites is like my favorite, most iconic episode.
Yeah.
The football game, it's so great. And then the next one is Family Ties, when they go to the like little Founders Day auction, whatever thing. I don't even know what it is.
Some Founders event.
Yeah, and Stefan tricks Damon with the Vervain and Caroline's.
It is a solid episode.
That's such a memorable like episode in my life, in my mind. Like that's like where it all started for me. So I feel like that had to be my favorite 3-episode arc was Night of the Comet, Friday Night Bites, and then Family Ties. It's just
interesting.
The early vampire nostalgia in high school. It's just vampires in high school, and I love that.
Yeah. No, I do really like those 3 episodes. I did think about those 3 episodes too, but I actually ended up going with, and I honestly thought you might say the same, I went with 17, 18, 19.
That was my other one.
Let the Right One In, to Under Control, to Miss Mystic Falls.
I debated that.
Banger. No misses. Everything. My perfect episode, all right in a row. Like the 17, Let the Right One In, is the Stefan like retrieval from the kidnap mission, where we get to see Damon, Alaric, and Elena as a trio for the first time, and Damon and Alaric as a duo for the first time. Which obviously spurs like one of my favorite arcs for Paul and Stefan, him becoming a Ripper.
Yep.
I love like the little moments that Delena have in these, obviously a little bit of Under Control, but especially Miss Mystic Falls.
Oh, yeah.
Which I love the costumes in Miss Mystic Falls. I love everything. Like, I feel like no misses in those 3.
Yeah, 17, 18, 19 was the one I was really agonizing over with 2, 3, 4. I was like the banger after banger.
Yeah.
And I said that to Shay when I was like working on what I was going to choose, I was like, Let the Right One In is like the best. Like I gotta start somewhere around there. But ultimately I did go Friday Night Bites is like my all-time favorite episode. So I was like, I gotta go the early ones.
Of course.
I gotta do it. So I'm glad that you honored the other ones. So we got both.
Yeah, when I was picking this, I actually thought we might have the same one. So
yeah, I thought about it really hard, and I ended up switching to the early ones. But I think that those are the 2 perfect 3 episode arcs.
That's it. Yeah, I know. I was thinking earlier, I was like, if you had to show someone like an episode to get them started, it's either 3 or 17. Like
that's true.
Obviously 17 you're a little late to the story, but it's just so good that I would want to be like,
those are the 2 that like are gonna get you into it, if anything.
Definitely.
It's gonna be hard to choose in season 2. That's banger after banger.
It's gonna be a tie for like every 3 segment episode.
So which honestly season 1's kind of like that too. Like I said, it's like Georgia, the Bloodlines episode into Pleasantville is like banger.
I did think about the turning point to Bloodlines to Unpleasantville.
The one that kind of like turned me off from those were the flashback episodes. For me, for rewatch, is weaker. I don't love the flashbacks.
Yeah.
Just after like the 15 times that I've watched, I'm like, less inclined for a flashback.
It doesn't really. Yeah, the flashbacks don't really do it too much for me. I thought about saying Lost Girls to Haunted to 162 Candles because I love Lexi and wanted to give her a little shout out. And I do think Vicky's episode is really solid. But Lost Girls was a weak point for me just because I don't know.
It's on a rewatch, really. I think,
just on a rewatch.
I think the first time it's like exciting, new information, but a rewatch it's like it doesn't hold up.
You're like, okay.
But
the only thing about Lost Girls that I don't dislike and that never ever gets old is every single outfit they gave Catherine.
Oh yeah.
Which brings me to our next category. Mm-hmm. We wanted to talk about our top 3 favorite outfits.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, release. Because I'm always thinking about all of the outfits from the Vampire Diaries. Mm-hmm. And I think we decided not to like do like a 1, 2, 3, but my favorite is, of course, Catherine's green dress.
Yeah.
I love.
Yeah, Catherine's green dress also was in my list of 3.
Yeah.
I think I like a lot of the 1864 ones. I love the black one with the white lace that she wears with Damon.
I thought about doing that one too.
But I think the green dress ultimately is like a level of iconic that is just like so memorable. Like it's one of those things you search like Catherine Vampire Diaries green dress and there's like
immediately
1,000 iterations of people like cosplaying as it. And like it's such a memorable look.
Yeah.
And on that vein, actually, my definite number 1 outfit is Miss Elena Gilbert.
Ooh,
actually, also in Lost Girls, because I like the one she wears in the pilot.
Yeah.
Because it's, of course, the red top with the leather jacket.
Of course.
But she also does a red top and a leather jacket in Lost Girls. But she just doesn't have, like, the cami under it. And she's, of course, wearing the necklace from Stefan.
Oh.
And in my mind, that is really
iconic.
That's the look.
Yeah.
She has, like, a red V-neck with the cropped black leather jacket, her usual, like, low-rise flare jeans and Converse.
Oh.
And the slick, straight hair. And it's just so, like, chef's kiss. Perfect.
Yeah. It is really good. And I did think about putting, like, Elena's pilot outfit in my top 3. But I decided to go with another direction instead of her. So I bumped Elena to put in, which maybe this doesn't count. So I'll have to maybe pull Elena back in. But I really wanted to give a shout out to Caroline's Decade Dance outfit.
Oh, I thought about that too.
Technically a costume, so it's not really like an outfit. Okay.
It counts.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with that one because, of course, I wanted to give my girl Caroline a little shout out. But I love it. I feel like she understood the assignment. She looks so good. Mm-hmm. She looks way better than anyone else also, which I think really makes her pop. Yeah. But I just loved everything she did with her Decade Dance outfit.
Yeah. Bonnie looks great too, but I do agree. Caroline is the one that really like killed it. Like they really gave her like a full look, accessories, everything.
Yeah. For me, I think I didn't go with Bonnie because they give Bonnie like a really good hairstyle. Like for once, they give Kat the good hairstyle. But her dress is a little bit like
it's just a 50s dress.
Yeah, it's just like kind of a regular dress. But Caroline has the cardigan and the hair and everything.
Yeah,
she looks so great. Good. Yeah.
I think mine is more on the note of maybe doesn't count. I think a costume counts. It's still an outfit you wear.
Yeah.
But mine is an outfit that through the events of the story is transformed into what I think of as the iconic outfit, which is Stefan in Blood Brothers. In 1864, he's woken up from getting shot and killed. And he just has on his, like, white button down with his, like, suspenders. I think you were say
when he's shirtless.
Well, he's like, it's
great outfit.
It's open. But he's been shot. And so, like, the red blood stain is on the white of the shirt. And that specifically, the outfit after he's been killed and has the blood staining his shirt and it's, like, all unbuttoned is the iconic outfit for me for Stefan because it's just such a memorable, like, I think the white button up with the stark like red blood stain on it is just such a striking image that is like immediately like memorable and I just wanted to choose that one because I just think it's so I don't know representative too. It's like that moment in between is what that outfit is. I just find it very interesting. I do love Damon and Stefan's 1864 like suspenders, the billowy white shirts. I do really love those, so I can get behind Stefan. But my third choice that I picked, I also wanted to do a men's costume because I could list every single one of Elena's costumes in my top 3, but I wanted to mix it up a little bit. So I went with Ian's sweater or Damon's sweater. Did you pick that one too? No, how did I not think of that?
I think about it daily. I love that sweater moment. It's not like, and probably most of you who don't think about Vampire Diaries 24/7 might not even recall it, but it's in Blood Brothers when Stefan is drying out. He's wearing like a navy blue sweater. Yeah. It just looks so good on Damon and it fits the vibe really well because they're in the Salvatore house with a fireplace and he's reading something at one point and I'm like,
Yeah.
Oh my god, I swoon. I love that outfit.
Yeah, that's such an awesome pick. I immediately reacted so dramatically to that because I can't believe I didn't think of it.
It's subtle because it's not like, you know, that iconic or anything, but
yeah, it's not.
It's just so good.
That's kind of, I went the opposite way with the iconic, like, memorable moment of Stefan, you know, in transition.
Right.
And I did think about Damon, and I really wanted to pick like a leather jacket moment. I was like, it's just such an iconic thing. Which again, with Elena, I went with sort of the iconic staple outfit. But that Damon one is great because it's almost just a little bit out of character. It's in character just enough.
Yeah.
But it's surprising that he would wear it.
Yeah.
And it looks so good.
I know. It looks so good. I really wish they had done more of it. It just it works so well.
Yeah, I love it. So that's my full top 3 is Catherine, Elena, and then Stefan for me, and yours is?
So mine is Catherine's green dress, of course, Caroline's decade dance dress outfit, and
Damon's navy sweater.
Yeah, Damon's dark academia, like broody villain sweater.
I want that sweater.
I know. So it's really good.
Love that.
Looks great.
And moving into the next category is couples. We're gonna round up all the couples who got together, who broke up, what's their current status.
Yeah.
And starting right off the bat with Damon and Catherine.
Yeah, Damon and Catherine, of course, drive the show. I mean, like you mentioned when we were talking about Catherine, her being stuck in the tomb and then actually not being in the tomb is pretty much like the one sentence plot of the season.
Yeah.
And that is all about Damon and her relationship, and he's trying to get her out because he's still in love with her. And in the flashbacks, we see a little bit of their relationship. Not a ton, like I said before. I think we get more of that in season 2. But yeah, we see that Damon does genuinely love her, I think, which is a big contrast from Stefan. But we see those differences in that Damon is feeding with her, like feeding off of her, and learning to feed with her. Like she shows him the laying in the road trick. Before Damon has ever even turned, Catherine shows him that trick. So we see that Damon is going along with these things because he clearly loves Catherine.
Yeah.
And when the season starts, he still really loves her.
Oh, yeah.
And is trying to get her out of the tomb that she's not in, which kind of shatters the love a little bit. Mm-hmm. Of course, it probably still lingers a bit. But yeah, we end the season, of course. Damon, I think, has mostly moved on from Catherine.
Yeah. That's going to be a huge talking point in season 2, episode 1. Of course, with Catherine revealed to be back. But yeah, that's Damon and Catherine. Yeah. And hand in hand with that, again, is Stefan and Catherine. Of course, everything while Damon and Catherine are together in 1864, Stefan is also with Catherine. Yep. And they're pretty much just sequestered to 1864. Like, there's really no present piece or component to their relationship in season 1. Season 2 will be a different story. Yes. But in season 1, of course, it's really just the 1864 flashbacks, and we're pretty much made to believe that he was just compelled to love Catherine. We don't really see anything to prove to us that Stefan loved Catherine or that she even really loved him. We don't really know a lot. It's just so kept to the past there. And modern day Stefan is just completely over. He's all about Elena, and he's moved, which he's dating the doppelganger of her. So is he really over her? I don't know.
Hard to say. Yeah.
Probably not. But theoretically, Stefan and Catherine is 1864. It's past and it's moved on, and that's that. That's their relationship. Yeah.
Another relationship that's past, but I think worth like briefly bringing up is Matt and Elena. Of course, they've like pretty recently broken up when the season starts, and like I mentioned, Matt starts off the season like still in love with Elena and not over her at all, and then he of course starts dating Caroline, which helps him move past. But gotta at least mention Matt and Elena because they have such a like not iconic relationship because we don't see it, but I don't know, just them having been together in the past, I feel like is such a thing in the season that we have to mention it.
Yeah, it's important lore for like Elena's background.
Exactly.
It's the same with Catherine for Stefan and Damon. Because of course too, like, you know, you're saying with Matt and Elena, that of course plays a factor in Stefan and Elena.
Of course.
You know, Stefan and Elena are the biggest pairing of the first season of the show. They're truly, you know, it is about them falling in love in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we see them fall in love. We see them break up. We see them make up. We see them probably break up again and then get back together again. I don't know. They'll have a dozen more of those.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it really is about, like, them coming together and getting stronger and, like, them just fully embracing their relationship through all the various trials that they experienced in season 1.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, we can't talk about Stelena without talking about Delena. Obviously, Delena is not together in this season. They don't get together until a lot later on. But we have to talk about them because they're such an iconic ship. But Damon and Elena, they also go through a lot. Mm-hmm. They start off where Elena is kind of charmed, and then Damon does all of the terrible things that Damon does, like abuse Caroline, kill Vicky, turn Vicky, then that, you know, they go through a rough patch. Then they kind of come back at Bloodlines on the trip to road trip to Georgia, and then they have another little like falling out, and then they come back, and they do end up in a good spot at the end of the season because they're in a good enough spot that Damon tries to kiss Elena. Like, he thinks he kisses Elena in the season finale. Mm-hmm. So obviously they're in a good enough spot that he felt he could try that. And he does open up to her before, like, leading up to the kiss. And so we see, you know, they've become more comfortable with each other. They care about each other.
And clearly, like, a romantic seed is there.
It's a little seed, but it's there.
Yeah, at least on Damon's end. Maybe not Elena's yet, but definitely Damon's.
Yes, definitely.
And jumping back, as you said, Vicky. Vicky starts out the season with Tyler. It's not really a relationship. They're not dating. I mean, that's definitely a plot in, like, episode 4 where he doesn't even invite her to the, like,
the party. Yeah.
And so, you know, she just wants something better, and he can't give that to her, and so she moves on with Jeremy.
Yeah. Vicky and Jeremy, of course, from the beginning of the season, Jeremy is clearly interested in Vicky in a romantic way. He's obsessed with her. Obviously. Yeah, he loves her. He wants to be with her, but she obviously has this sort of weird thing with Tyler. Finally, good for Vicky. She tells Tyler bye. Mm-hmm. And she and Jeremy sort of get together. But, of course, before that can go anywhere, David turns Vicky, and Vicky is killed by Stefan. So their relationship doesn't really go anywhere. But Jeremy, of course, at the end of the season is still very much mourning the loss of Vicky. Yeah.
And he processes that in part through his relationship then with Anna.
Yeah.
Jeremy, of course, is like lured in by Anna as part of her like larger goal of getting into the tomb and using him for that purpose. But once that's done, she really does start to like him. And then, of course, he learns about vampires and he starts to use her because he wants to try to get Vicky, who he believes must be alive and a vampire. And that kind of causes some problems for them. But I do think ultimately, although he's, of course, mourning Vicky and obsessed with Vicky still, when he does learn that they found her body and she's dead, I think he does start to really open up to Anna and to, like, learn to love and appreciate Anna, which then, of course, she dies. And then he's just left mourning both girlfriends, which is just insane.
Yeah. On a slightly happier note, Jenna and Alaric, of course, get together in this season. And they have, like, a nice little, like, meeting where they meet at the grill, sort of, like, as Jenna is there with Jeremy as his guardian. Of course, Alaric is his teacher, so that sort of gives them a reason to connect. And then they pretty instantly hit it off and then go on a few dates and start dating. And there isn't a ton to say here, but they, of course, end in a really good spot, with Alaric sort of stepping into, like, an uncle role to Jeremy and Elena. And, you know, he drives them to places, and they leave Jeremy with John, and he takes Elena and Jenna. Mm-hmm. And, Alaric is, obviously, he's supported Jeremy by helping him with the paper and everything, but kind of a tangent. But, Jenna and Alaric end in a good spot. They're still dating at the end. Also, Alaric has been compelled by Isabel to move on. So I feel like now that he can really fully be in that relationship.
Yeah, I would say that other than, like, Damon, Elena, Catherine, Stefan, like, those groupings, Jenna and Alaric are one of the, like, really stronger leading couple romantic relationships in the first season. And the other would be Matt and Caroline.
Yes.
Matt and Caroline are another one who are, like, you know, a big will they, won't they.
Of course.
Will they figure it out? Will they not? He says he's creeped out by her.
Yep.
And he doesn't like her.
Such a way with words.
Yeah, but he's still sneaking in her window to, like, I don't know, hang out, like, spend the night with her. So it's shocking that they do actually end the season in, like, a really good spot, you know? Like, he is really, like, scared for her life when they get into the car accident, and he clearly loves her. And, of course, she loves him, and, like, they're in a good spot. They go through a lot in the first season, and we see a lot of their relationship in the first season. Yeah,
which is good for Caroline because, unfortunately, have to mention it, can't overlook it. Caroline has her whole terrible relationship with Damon at the beginning where obviously abusive. He's compelling her to go along with him, feeding off of her and all these different things. It happened. It was horrible.
Yeah.
We like to forget, but we have to mention it. Yeah, so bad.
That perfectly applies to the next pairing, which is Damon and Kelly.
Oh my God.
We'd like to forget, but it did happen.
Yeah, yep. That is pretty much true of my next one as well. Tyler and Kelly.
Yeah. Kelly really got around for a minute there.
Yeah, Kelly had a moment where she was truly the MILF of the show. She was Tyler and Damon in the span of like a
2
week.
episodes. Yeah. Which her daughter died, so grief makes you do funny things, I guess.
That's true. I guess I will say it's fine for that reason, but
except Tyler might have been like
Tyler's
17,
not okay.
Still,
yeah, that's not okay.
Still. Really not okay. The last one, Bonnie and Ben.
Oh,
Bonnie got one romantic interest, and it was a vampire that was kidnapping her
so dirty
and trying to use her for her magic. So hate that.
Yeah, poor Bonnie. She deserves so much more, but
she definitely does. So unfortunately, she won't be really relevant for this next nominee, which is favorite couple. But we can't choose Stelena or Delena, which, to be honest, I don't know who I would choose for this first season. So we'll make it easy on ourselves, and we'll say just favorite couple of the first season.
Yeah, if we're excluding Stelena and Delena, I have to go with Jenna and Alaric.
That's mine too.
Oh, good. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the obvious choice. I do like some of the other pairings, like Matt and Caroline, I do like in season 1.
Yeah. I like Jeremy and Alaric. Jeremy and Anna.
Like them too, I guess.
Jeremy and Anna.
I do like them as well, and I thought about that. But they have such a weird, like, using each other on and off weird dynamic
And the whole ghost cheating thing really sours
it. The ghost cheating always ruins Anna's character for me a little bit. Even though I do like her in season 1. But
Jenna and Alaric are only supported by what happens after season 1, you know? Like, it only makes it that much sweeter.
Yeah, and they don't really have any rough patches in season 1. I
Other
like
than
them
the
together.
Secret dead wife, but, you know, it's a minor thing.
Yeah, it's... Well, how do you bring her into the world? I don't know. Yeah, I feel like it's a little forgivable. So, other than that, little lie, I think it's a pretty wholesome relationship.
Yeah, they are the most wholesome of the show, like, for sure, just easily. And it's hard to not like them as a pairing. They're really cute together.
I think so, too. So they were my vote.
Sure. Same. So instead of choosing Delena or Stelena, we're going to say our favorite moment for each couple in season 1. So Delena's up first. Favorite Delena moment.
Delena, I'll start us off here because I feel like I'm the biggest like Damon apologist / Delena shipper. I liked a lot of little moments. Like they had a lot of moments I think that got the ship and like the shippers really interested in them. Yeah. Where you could just tell they have so much chemistry.
Oh yeah.
Like the little hand grab in the finale, I really like that.
Yeah.
But I think the moment for me that really sealed it was Elena hugging Damon after they don't get they get the tomb open and Catherine's not there. I think it's such a small moment, so I really took moment to heart here. But I just love that Elena does that, and I don't know. It's pretty one-sided because it's just Elena doing it, but I don't know. I just thought it was such a sensitive, tender moment that I love it.
This is why we make such a perfect pair, because I did the same thing in the opposite direction, a one-sided Damon moment.
Ooh.
And I will admit, I kind of chose a horrible moment here because, you know, if I were a true Delena fan, I would pick one of their great kitchen scenes, Miss Mystic, the rain. Like, there's so many good things to choose from, but I chose the smallest moment, which is in episode 3, Friday Night Bites, my favorite episode, at the very end of the episode when he's in her room while she's sleeping and he just strokes her face really gently. And again, like you're saying with Elena to Damon, it's Damon to Elena just being like super tender and gentle.
Mm-hmm.
And it says a lot without anything being said.
Yeah.
And it should be creepy and disturbing and horrible that he's like broken into her room to watch her sleep.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, it just comes off so soft and so meaningful.
Yeah.
And it's backed by the fact that Stefan is having this voiceover saying that there's no humanity in Damon.
Yeah.
He's this awful person. There's no good in him. And we see him doing that. And clearly, like, Elena is this source of good in him. So that's my favorite moment from season 1.
I feel like those two moments work really well together.
They really work.
They really complement each other. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I went, again, with a really small moment for Stelena. For favorite Stelena moment, I went super minute. People might not even remember this, which they have a lot of good moments in season 1 especially, but my moment is in Founders Day when they're walking and Damon's coming over to them to tell them about the fact that the two vampires are there, and they have the moment where he grabs her hand and like whatever, but just before Damon can interrupt the moment, and you just see Steph and Elena for like 2 seconds, like walking, holding hands, talking, she's laughing, she's doing some filler dialogue saying like, can you imagine that? And he's just looking at her with like the most loving look ever. And I always think about that in season 1 is this like what is that? Why do we not get more of that? Like, that's so cute. It's so wholesome. It's so human. It's so normal. And that is like where Stelena like shines the best and the brightest. And I just wish we got more of that. So that's my favorite moment of theirs in season 1.
That's a really good moment. It is a true moment, and I really do like that. And it's also, I do want to give a little bit of shout out. I do love the double date episode.
Oh yeah,
I think
it's a good one.
It's a good solid couple episode for the same reasons that you just said. But again, I sort of went like the opposite direction where I went with like a one-sided thing, and I went with when Elena goes to talk to Stefan at the end of Blood Brothers when he is out of the cellar, and she goes and talks to him and is telling him to fight, to live another day and keep working through like everything that he's going through. I don't know. It's not a super romantic moment, but to me, I think the fact that it wasn't really romantic, like she never made it like, I love you, do this for me, or anything like that. Like it was very much like I went through a lot, you went through a lot, we can be there for each other. It was more of like a just very supportive, like for me it like filled all the non-romantic aspects you should have in a relationship. Like it was like, okay, they really are there for each other, they want to help each other grow and be better. I thought it was a good moment.
Yeah, it's interesting you chose to like supportive, Elena supporting the brothers.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe I guess to just like Elena, but
but that's really cute. And I do like the contrast of our two moments there too, of like, it's the best of Stelena is the normalcy, the pretending they're just two human teenagers who are just going to the fair and holding hands at like the fireworks, and also the fact that they have experienced some insane like trauma and supernatural, and that they're really the only people that can understand what they've been through and supporting each other through that. It really, that is the two sides to this Stelena coin, and it
definitely
works really well as a pairing there.
I agree.
Going into the dark and the crazy, our usual outro here is we give the death for each episode, the out of pocket, the best quote, the best song, and so of course we've got to give all the deaths of season 1. So we're gonna try to do it very quickly and say each of the deaths of season 1 based on who did the death.
So you'll have to forgive me. I'm gonna have to reference my note I have because there are just so many. But
there's a lot.
So in the deaths we have, let me get down to all of them. So I think obviously, there's one that we don't attribute to any like killer, no one did the death, like no one killed anyone. Grams dies because she's overwhelmed by magic. A rare occurrence. Rare occurrence in Vampire Diaries that someone didn't just straight up kill her. But so Grams is overwhelmed by magic. And then really quickly we see Harper kill someone, Harper the tomb vampire. He kills a hiker. A random tomb vampire kills Mayor Lockwood in the cellar. Isabel kills Trudy by way of her messenger, who she then also kills. So
by compulsion again.
Isabel kills 2 people by way of compulsion. Catherine kills 2 people in an 1864 flashback. We also have Giuseppe killing Stefan and Damon, his sons.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's really great.
Yeah. Probably the worst ones on the list. And he, of course, changes them into vampires with that killing.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Big important deaths. Logan feeds on a bunch of people. At least 5.
Yeah.
Who knows? We don't get a count.
One episode where there's just bodies stacked to the ceiling.
Yeah. So it's a lot of people. Probably way more than 5, but at least 5.
At least 5 are on screen.
Yeah. And then Alaric is in his vampire hunter era. He kills Logan, a bunch of the tomb vampires during the Stefan retrieval, and Henry, the 1864 tomb vampire.
Yeah. Alaric really growing the numbers there.
Yeah.
Pretty much neck and neck with Stefan, surprisingly. Stefan only kills 6 people in season 1, but they're all like notable named characters. Of course, the first one is Vicky, who he kills to save Elena. She's literally about to kill her.
Yeah.
Next one is Noah. Again, he's the vampire that shows up at the Decade Dance, who again is about to kill Elena. Next one is Ben, one of Anna's other vampires that she turned.
Yeah.
Again, I guess to save Elena, to save Jeremy, who was also right there. Or maybe just because Ben was so annoying. He literally torches him like on fire. It's like a crazy death. And then, of course, he kills Beth Ann when she breaks into the house. And so that one's kind of self-defense. And then, again, he kills Frederick in sort of self-defense, but also to protect Elena. Elena's at the root of a lot of this.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in 1864, we saw that he killed Giuseppe Salvatore in order to turn into a vampire.
Yeah.
That's the only one so far we know of in 1864. We're going to see a lot more.
Yeah. Stefan's flashbacks will get crazy. But
yeah. For now, he's at a cool 6.
Yeah. Then the next most highest is John Gilbert kills at least 10 people, probably more. Most notably, he kills Pearl. Very sad. He kills Pearl. And Harper. I've said this before. I love Harper.
Love Harper.
Wish he got more. But of course, John Gilbert had to kill him.
Yeah.
Another reason I hate John. He also stakes Anna in the finale. And then, of course, he kills all of those tomb vampires that are also in the basement at the apothecary in the fire. So he kills all of those vampires too.
Yeah, so it's impossible to know how many there, but probably at least 6 or 7.
At least, yeah. So at least 10 kills for John.
Yeah. And then you knew this was coming. The number 1 big bad who killed the most people. I'll list them off first and then give you the number. Of course, the first big kill is Coach Tanner, who he just kills as like a little revenge thing to Stefan in the parking lot. A real bad one, Zach Salvatore. He snaps his neck really quick just so that he can chase Caroline. I don't know, when he's like getting out of his little prison.
Yeah.
He kills Vicky in order to turn her into a vampire. Stefan kills her permanently.
Yeah,
but he kills her to turn her. He kills Lexi, awful one again. He kills Bree, awful one. He rips her heart out in Georgia.
Oh my gosh.
He kills Isabel to turn her into a vampire as well in a flashback. He kills Alaric, who has the ring on, so he comes back. And he kills Mrs. Gibbons in order to get into the house where Stefan is being held hostage. He kills John Gilbert, who again was wearing a ring and got resurrected. Damon gets punked by that one constantly.
Damon's always trying to kill someone and then they just come back.
Yeah, we've got another great one of those coming up.
Yeah, really soon.
The next episode we'll be talking about that again.
Yep.
And his total number is 25.
At least.
So it includes all of those. Yeah. Yep. And then there is at least, to get us to 25, we were shown a bunch of random feedings. He kills tons of the tomb vampires to save Stefan.
Yep.
Damon is just always. So everyone else, John is like maybe 10 at second place, and Damon's at a confirmed 25.
Solidly 25. Possibly many more.
Yeah. So he really wins out on the amount of deaths in the season. So with that, we want to talk about what, there's so many big deaths in season 1. We want to talk about what the most impactful death is. You can't say it's your favorite.
No. Yeah. How can you have a favorite death? I don't know.
But the most impactful. And I will say, I don't know where you went with this, but I really went back and forth. Like Lexi and Graham's are some really big deaths that I feel really emotional about and really wanted to do.
Yeah.
But then I thought about The Weight of Us playing while Damon is compelling Jeremy, and I had to switch my vote to Vicky Donovan.
Interesting. Yeah.
Vicky is the most impactful death for me, not because I was sad to lose her in the same way as like Lexi and Graham's, But because of the impact that I think she ultimately had on the characters in the larger story, I mean, we literally never feel the end of Vicky's death. It's brought up in the series finale.
Yep.
Like, it is like this thing that just like triggers the rest of the show in a way, because it is the first consequences of the vampires being in Mystic Falls for the like modern Mystic Falls teens. And so I think in that way, it's just a really important death in the story. And then I also do think, again, like that song playing and Damon compelling Jeremy, it's such an emotional moment. We talked about it in the episode that we both were like crying again. I've seen that episode like 30 times and I still cry when I watch that scene of not necessarily her dying, but the impact of that has on Elena, on Matt. He doesn't even know that it's happened yet. And then Jeremy, and it's just so devastating that I think ultimately for me, Vicky was my most impactful death of season 1.
Yeah, interesting. I think we interpreted this slightly differently. So I actually thought about asking you and clarifying with you, but I thought it'd be more fun to not.
Yeah.
Is it most impactful within the show itself or most impactful to us? And it seems like
either.
Yeah, it can be either. It seems like you went a little of both, of course, but more within the show.
Yeah.
I feel like I went like the opposite direction where of course it's still impactful in the show, but it most impactful to me, especially as a rewatcher, I think I have to go with Graham's. I contemplated both Vicky and Lexi, who you brought up. Vicky, they do so much with Vicky's character in the later seasons that it ruins it.
Yeah.
It is very emotional though. And Lexi comes back enough and has a lot of good moments later on that I was like, not Lexi, but Graham's. Even though she comes back, there is something about Bonnie and Elena realizing that Graham's has passed, like just in her bed after this spell that goes awry. And then Bonnie disappearing for a lot of episodes. I feel like I really feel the impact of that in the show, Bonnie's absence. That, I don't know, it just always really gets me. And I feel like Bonnie, the character, is done dirty so many times. I don't know. I just wanted to, and I love Graham's, and I know. I come to like her so much by episode 14 when she dies, and it just, I don't know. We do see her again, like Lexi and Vicky, but
that's true.
It just felt different for me. It hit a little different. I think maybe it's like you sort of pointed out. It's because she dies for magical reasons and not like just being killed by someone. Yeah. It feels more tragic almost.
That's so interesting because I feel the opposite. I'm like, Graham's is less tragic in that way. And also because she's older. I don't know how old she is. But like Vicky life ended like way too soon.
Okay, that's true.
Not trying to like sway you on my side on or anything like that. Of course. But that was my deciding factor between Graham's and Vicky. I did the same thing with Lexi of like, we see her plenty of times. She lived 300 years. She's fine.
She's good. Yeah.
But like seeing Matt with his 18-year-old sister having died.
Yeah, that is really terrible.
I was like, that strikes a chord with me that
You're not trying to sway me, but you are. I'm like, okay, maybe it is Vicky. They're both very impactful.
They're both very impactful. And I will say I'm a music girly, and thinking about The Weight of
Us is a lot. Yeah.
And then All You Wanted, I think, is the one that plays when they go to the house because there's two really for Vicky. It's the night she dies and the group of them.
That's true. She does.
And then there's the other episode when they find her body, which I think is why for me that's such like an emotionally impactful one because it's like a double whammy. Whereas Gramps just gets run by Leanna Lewis. I'm like, okay, that's true. Gramps deserves so much more. Yeah. If they gave her a good song, I would have been swayed, but not yet.
I think for me, I'm just sad that they have to write Cat Graham off. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. The things that spurs is not great.
Yeah.
Speaking of not great, out of pocket. We end every single episode with saying like, what's the most out of pocket thing that happened in that episode? And now we have to pick what is the most out of pocket thing that happened in the entire season.
Yeah, this was kind of hard. There are so many people and moments that are out of pocket in the show. I mean, it is a teen drama and on the CW, so that's always another notch up. But I had to go with just Kelly Donovan as a person. Of course, she, like we said, she makes out with Tyler and Damon within the span of probably a week. Not good. And she also is so catty and mean to Caroline, who is a literal teenager, and whereas Kelly's supposed to be an adult. I don't know. And she's just so wild.
She's such a wild character. You feel so bad for Matt.
Yep.
I did think about her. I thought about this for a few seconds. I was like, Kelly, Everything Carol Lockwood does, everything Mare Lockwood does, most of the things Tyler Lockwood does.
Yeah, all the Lockwoods.
Yeah. You know, and I was like, And then a specific moment came to mind, and I was like, that's the moment. And it is, of course, John punching Liz in the back of the head.
Wait, scratch that. I want to change mine.
It's like every time that image comes to my mind of him just like hitting her in the back of the head and knocking her down. It's so extra. There were like 1,000 different ways that he could have taken care of that moment. And instead, John's like, I gotta take this over and like fix the town. I'm gonna take out Liz.
Also, I mean, again, this is just like maybe going off on a tangent a little too much, but that whole episode, he's like, John is like, we're gonna kill these tomb vampires in the midst of like every single person in town. And then people
probably coming from out of town. Like, it's probably the most populated day of the year, and like he's like, we gotta do this right now.
And then he punches.
It's crazy.
No, it is really out of pocket. It's so bad, but it's so out of pocket.
He's another one you could say, like, John just on the whole. Like, John, his entire appearance in the entire series is out of pocket.
Yeah.
But that moment really, boils it down for me, of just hitting her in the back of the head like that. Yeah. And then chaining her up in her own office.
Yeah, like, with her own handcuffs.
Yeah, cool.
Wow, he got the best of Liz.
He really did. No one will ever catch Liz like that again. Except for Damon.
Yeah, true.
And like Caroline, probably.
Oh my god.
But yeah, that had to be the best out of pocket for me.
Yeah, I think it does have to be. Yeah, not that you need to sway me, but I think that's the one of the whole first season.
Yeah.
Now for quote, again, going in that same order we always do in our outro. I think we're going to each pick like our top 3 quotes. So I'll start with my third. So I had for my third best quote of the season, I wanted to give a little something to Stefan because he had a lot of like little snarky lines. So I wanted to give him one. I went with his line to Damon, I'm really sorry I won't be able to help you with your diabolical plan, the sequel.
I'm so glad you put that because I really thought about that one for a long time.
I had to.
But I went with a different Stefan one later on my list. But that's such a good one. I was like, I can't do two Stefans though.
Yeah.
But I love that one. I actually ended up going with a Damon one for number 3. Shockingly, I thought he would be higher, but he was my number 3.
Yeah.
And it's, of course, the ever iconic quote to Isabel. I do believe in killing the messenger.
Oh.
You know why? It sends a message.
That's my number 1.
Good. Is it your number 1?
Yeah, it was my number 1.
It had to be my number 3. It's great, but I was like, these other 2, that just speaks to how iconic the other 2 are. That's my number 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say that's, I don't know. I had to go with it because it's so...
It's just it's such a funny,
it's so fun, funny. I love the moment, everything.
Yeah.
But speaking of iconic, I of course had to go with my number 2 slot as I was feeling epic.
Oh, I debated that one a lot too. I didn't put it on my list, but I really thought about it. It's such a beautiful quote.
It's such a beautiful quote. I love the Lexi character, and I felt like I didn't give her enough like homage in my roundup that I was like, it just feels like she has to make at least one of our lists.
Yeah.
And not knowing yours, I was like, okay, I definitely want her in mine. Mm-hmm. And of course, her iconic quote.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I went with for my second.
It's
I was
so
feeling
good.
Epic.
It's such a memorable quote in the Vampire Diaries community. I mean, like epic cons, you know, it's like
it's
such
like
a
the
thing.
quote. Yeah.
And so that's such a great one. I went the opposite direction with my number 2. My number 2 is Stefan in Miss Mystic Falls. I'm freaking hungry.
Oh my god. I almost thought about that one too.
I love that you went sentimental and I was like, I'm freaking hungry.
No, I felt like I had to give Stefan, like, you know, I liked his diabolical plan, the sequel, so I didn't want to do 2.
Yeah, I do like that one too.
Yeah.
I know. I did think about I was feeling epic, but then it came down to I was feeling epic, I think about once every couple months. I'm freaking hungry. I think of every day.
Every day. No, that's true. If we were going about how often we just say it in our day-to-day lives, it's probably, I'm freaking hungry.
I literally say that. Like 5 o'clock, I'm saying that. I'm just walking into the kitchen going, I'm freaking hungry.
Yeah. Such a good quote.
It's so funny. Speaking of so funny, my number 1 is going to shock you.
Oh, boy.
I gave it to Matt Donovan.
Interesting. Stop your little bromance bitch act.
Stop your little bromance bitch act. It's so funny.
It's so funny. I'm glad you said that because I wanted to so badly put it on my list, but I did, you know, like I was feeling epic and
I'm glad it sounds like we had a real good Venn diagram here of like the ones that I wanted to do but couldn't you did and vice versa. We really covered like the best quotes.
The best quotes. Yeah, I love stop your little bromance bitch.
It's so funny. Like Matt saying that to Tyler is like chef's kiss. It's perfection.
It's perfect. This is what I'm saying. This is why I wanted to give Zach Rohrig his flower earlier.
Yeah, he deserves it.
He does kill it when he has his moment. He has it.
If they give him a line, he will deliver it.
He will. Yeah. Signed, sealed, delivered.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. Such a good quote.
The next category, I'll be surprised if we have overlap here. I'm really curious.
I think we have to have at least one song.
Yes. So
it might not be in the same position, but.
Yeah. The next category is, of course, best song. And we're going to say our top 3 songs for the entire season of the first season of Vampire Diaries, which I just think is going to be so difficult because there's so many songs.
Yeah, it's really hard. I don't know. I, of course, listen to the Vampire Diaries music all the time. Mm-hmm. And there are so many songs that I do just genuinely love. Mm-hmm. And I will say, like, there are a lot of songs that I loved, but, like, aren't necessarily with, like, a great moment.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It made it hard to really choose one. Because, like, I can think of tons of songs that I love from season 1.
But totally.
Is it the moment? And also, how do you pick? There are just so many good ones.
There's so many good ones.
This was hard.
I knew immediately what I wanted my 1 and 2 to be, and 3 I really debated. Yeah. And I will say I cheated. I made number 3 a straight tie. So I'm saying 4.
No. We need to take an intermission so I can add in another one.
Listen to the justification here.
Okay.
So, number 3, I have a perfect tie, and that's for episode 1. And it is the tie that we got stuck on. In our first episode of the Rippah Diaries, we talked for like 20 minutes about what the best song would be. We cut it down to like, 2 minutes or whatever because it was just so long because we couldn't decide. And so I was like, in honor of that, because I couldn't decide between those 2 songs and a slew of others, but those 2 were the ones standing out to me. It's, of course, Running Up That Hill by Placebo and Never Say Never by The Fray. Because I think
that's fair.
I think they represent the 2 like sides of Vampire Diaries in a really cool way. Like Running Up That Hill by Placebo is an amazing song. It's so great. It fits like that vibe of the the mystery and the darkness of Vampire Diaries. And Never Say Never is that 2009 high school vibe.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect pair. And for me, they're perfectly matched. And Never Say Never is just so nostalgic.
Yeah.
And I'm sad we didn't make that one the winner of episode 1 in a way, although I do think Running Up That Hill was the fair winner.
Yeah.
I just thought for me they were just such a perfect tie for my number 3 for best song.
Okay, that is fair. And I will say I did go back into like all of the notes I had kept of like the favorite songs I liked, especially ones that didn't necessarily win. And I wanted to choose something off them to bring them back, just to give them a little justice. But there were too many actually really good songs that we did select. So I will say all of mine are from the ones we selected. But I'm okay with that because they're infinite good ones. So my third best song of the season, I went with Ain't No Rest for the Wicked.
Oh, I love that
because I love the song. I love the moment. I think it really is like such a Vampire Diaries song, like not to me because like I already knew the song by the time I watched because I watched season 1 like when season 3 was coming out, so I already knew the song, but it's just the right vibe for Vampire Diaries. Like it's kind of rock but kind of like the indie like 2000s 2010s vibe that I had to go that way. I think
it fits the vibe like so perfectly. I said it in the episode in Isabel that I wish they played it again.
I know.
It feels like they could have played it like 2 or 3 times in a Damon scene and perfectly gotten away with it.
I think they could have. Yeah,
I'm kind of surprised they didn't play it like in the last season as like a little homage. Because it just fits so well. It's so cool.
I know. I really wish they had. I do love that song and the whole scene. Yeah,
I love that one. I wanted to nominate it, so I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
My number 2, I had to. Again, I immediately knew this was my number 2. I love this song. And it's, of course, Believer by Viva Voce.
Oh, okay.
I said in this episode 4, when we did it, I said, this is in my top 10 of all time Vampire Diaries songs. So I had to stick by that. And, of course, I do feel that way. I like Ain't No Rest for the Wicked for Damon, but I think Believer for Damon is so perfect.
I know.
It's so cool. It has like the most edgy, like, vampire getting taken down, and it feels a little Western, and like it feels a little edgy, and like it's so perfectly scored with that moment of like Damon taking down Caroline and Stefan emerging from the shadows and the I knew I couldn't spike your drink, so I spiked hers. It's so good. I listen to that song constantly because of that episode. So that was my number 2.
I will say I thought long and hard about my number 3, and it was between Ain't No Rest for the Wicked and Believer.
Yeah, it's just such a strong one.
It's so good. And I will say, to Believer's credit, I probably wouldn't have like come across the song on my own.
Yeah.
So, and Ain't No Rest for the Wicked, like I said, I think I already knew. So, I still listen to it every day.
Yeah.
So that's the staying power of Believer. So I'm glad you have that one.
Yeah.
For my second song, I had to go with Bloodstream
I
by
thought
Stateless.
that was going to be your number 1.
No. Sarah and Shay know I was listening to Bloodstream constantly. I was always singing it. Yeah. I would send them like audio messages of listening to it. It's just so good. I love that song. I love the moment, even though it's Catherine. Yeah. There's just everything about it. Like, again, like I said about Believer, I still listen to it to this day. Same thing for like Bloodstream. I listen to it all the time. Like, I genuinely love the song.
Yeah, I love that song too. Yeah. Again, there's so many good songs in the first season. Yeah. And I did debate that one. It was on my longer list for my top 3. Mm-hmm. But I ultimately didn't go for it just because of the switcheroo of Catherine and Damon instead of Elena. But it's so good. It's just like
so good.
It fits the romantic sort of tense vibe of Vampire Diaries that I think is kind of hard to capture in a song, and I think that one does it really well.
Yeah. It's such a good song.
Yeah, so I'm a little surprised it's not your number 1, but I think I know what your number 1 is.
Well, I was going to say, if these are our 2s and 3s, I think we're going to have the same number 1.
Really?
Maybe.
Well, okay, I don't think we are, because my number 1 is Temptation by Moby.
That's my number 1.
Oh my God. Okay, good. Okay, I thought you were going to say Running Up That Hill was your number 1. No, I'm shocked it's not on your top 3.
I do love Running Up That Hill. I also thought about that one.
Interesting. You were won over by Temptation by Moby. Okay, good. We're on the same page. It has to be the number 1 song. I think that this song is like criminally underrated in the Vampire Diaries fandom.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm shocked that people don't like put this song in edits more, like that they don't talk about this as being a Vampire Diaries song. Like, people talk about Running Up That Hill a little bit. People talk about Never Say Never. Yeah. People talk about maybe Bloodstream and like the Delena dance song, All I Need. But nobody talks about Temptation by Moby, and it is like shockingly like amazing.
No, I like not a day goes by where I'm not up, down, turn around. I like whenever I look up, I'm like up, down. I don't know. It lives in my head rent free, and it's so good. And it's so good. I don't know.
Like, I think that song permanently, like, did something to my brain.
I think so, too.
Like, genuinely, because especially, like, in the formative years of 2009 when that episode dropped and I started listening to that song, like, genuinely, like, you know, I had an iPod with, like, 20 songs on it, and that was, like, one of the songs, and I would literally put it on repeat the whole night, and I'd fall asleep, and I'd wake up, and it was still playing. Like, obsessed.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful song. We're going to have to make some edits with it or
something.
We
must. We absolutely must. But yeah, the moment also, like we were saying, I had to go with songs that were like cued to really good moments.
Yes.
That moment is perfect.
I really refrained in my favorite Delena moment, which I did make that my favorite Delena moment. I really refrained from mentioning the fact that that moment is so great because of the song. Yes. I think that song, it's of course perfect for Damon and Elena, especially like in that, you know, era. But I do think it's also really perfect for Stefan and Elena in a way of like, something about the temptation aspect and the like, I don't know, the sweetness and the purity of it and the, I don't know, I like it has this fantastical element to it too that I think it just all encompasses season 1 for me.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's the season 1 song for me.
Yeah, it really is. There's so many great ones, but it will always be Temptation by Moby.
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah, Temptation by Moby. I think that's a really solid note to end it on. I'm glad we agreed for the for the best song.
Definitive best song by the Rippah Diaries.
Definitive best song. Give it like the seal.
Yeah, the seal of approval. But I'm glad we mentioned a lot of really great other ones as well. We got a whole slew of them mentioned, so that's good.
Yeah, and so many great moments. So that really wraps up season 1. These were, you know, a little recap, a little roundup, a little faves, a lot of everything. Stuck with us this long. You're a real one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So next week we'll be back with season 2, episode 1, The Return.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The return of who?
Catherine Pierce.
I'm so excited. I'm so ready to get into that. So I'm glad that we'll be back to the regular posting schedule, and we'll be posting that on Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday, November 2nd.
Yeah, and you can find us on all of our socials. We post on Instagram and TikTok. I guess we're going to be posting an edit to Temptation by Moby.
We have to.
So go look for that.
Yeah, you can also listen to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can watch the video version on YouTube. So join us next Thursday for season 2.
Yes, so excited for the premiere. Hope we see you there. Thanks for watching and or listening to this one. Bye.
Bye.